As we announced previously, the Noshing with Nina show packed up our equipment and set off to film on location in Vienna, Austria last August. I had been invited to film a music video in the beautiful Börsendorfer Salon in the heart of old Vienna. So we took advantage of the opportunity to bring you some wonderful footage of our trip. And of course, we will show you the actual video later on in the broadcast. First of all, American Airlines kept us sitting on the tarmac for 5 hours, so we ended up missing our connections. After spending the night in London, we ended up taking a British Airways flight to Vienna in business class, which was delightful. Here we are, ladies and gentlemen, at the British Airways Business Class Lounge in Heathrow Airport in London, England. Cheerio. English tea on British Airways. We have scones and cucumber sandwiches and clotted cream with jam, and don't forget the bubbly. Cheers. As you may recall, in one of our last episodes, the Noshing with Nina show would be spending the bulk of the month of August in Austria and Great Britain. I, in my role as concert pianist, was invited to film a music video at the Börsendorfer Salon, which happens to be inside of the Musikverein building in the heart of old Vienna. Our gracious host, Vladimir Bulzan, was kind enough to sit down with us for a short interview on the history of Börsendorfer in Vienna, and to share some details on the beautiful Imperial grand piano on which I performed. In this segment of the Noshing with Nina show, we will feature highlights of our trip to the Austrian capital, Vienna. Enjoy! Hello and welcome to the Noshing with Nina show. I'm your host, Nina Kennedy, and today we are coming to you from the beautiful city of Vienna, Austria. All the way in the east of Europe, we are here in the central part of town at the Stephansplatz. The Stephan's Dome is one of the oldest cathedrals in this part of Europe. In fact, the first part was built in the year 1137, if you can imagine. The style is initially Romanesque, and then of course as the centuries went on, different sections were added to it, so it covers an array of styles. But this is a simply lovely building. Take a look. Here we are on the side of the Stephan's Dome, which was the location where Mozart's Requiem Mass had its world premiere. Can you imagine? Mozart, in fact, lived in an apartment just behind the Stephan's Dome, in the same neighborhood where Beethoven rented an apartment. Their apartments are on display. You can go in and they have all of their instruments and scores set up so that you can really get a feeling for what it was like to live in those days. Here we are inside of the Stephan's Dome, which, as you can see, is a very active cathedral. People come to pray and meditate and confess. There's also wonderful music that can be heard here at all hours of the day, regular masses. So this is a lovely place to come and get in touch with your spiritual side. And here we are at the Mozart House. Now this is the location where young Mozart first came to Vienna and rented an apartment. And now they have turned his old apartment into a museum where people can come and take a look at his old piano and some of the lithographs from his first productions when he arrived in Vienna. So we'll go in and take a look. Come with us. And now we're inside of the Mozart House, where there's a display of some of the pictures I've seen all my life of the young Mozart. I believe this is actually of Mozart's father, who was a member of the royal court. This is one of Mozart's later pictures before he passed. A family picture of the father, young Mozart, and Mozart's sister, Nannerl, who was a talented musician as well. Here's the picture of the family with Mozart and Nannerl sitting together, their father leaning against the piano, and a portrait of Mozart's mother, who had already passed by that point. In fact, she passed when she and young Mozart were on a trip to Paris, and unfortunately she fell ill and didn't survive the trip back home to Salzburg. So this is a little glimpse into the life of Mozart as we knew him. So this is a picture of young Mozart as a child. Now he is the personification of Wunderkind, or child prodigy. He must have been 6 years old in this picture, and he was already famous throughout Europe. Since his father had been a member of the royal court, he was able to promote his child's talent, promote or exploit, however you choose to interpret it. But young Mozart was already enjoying a full concert schedule by this age, and known in several of the royal courts throughout Europe. And here we are at the Schönbrunn Palace. So we're about to go in and visit. Why don't you come with us? And here we are inside of the front gates of the Schönbrunn Palace. We're about to go take a look at the royal gardens and see the beautiful sculptures and the design for the Austrian royalty. This is the seat of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and Schönbrunn Palace itself is supposed to be the Versailles of Austria. Come on with us. Here we are at the Schönbrunn Palace Gardens, where the Austrian emperors spent their summers. This is the seat of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. The Empress Maria Theresia reigned here until her son took over, Franz Joseph II, as emperor. Her daughter, Marie Antoinette, spent her summers here until she was married off to the French king and met her fate in France. Isn't this gorgeous? So we climbed up the hill behind the Schönbrunn Palace up to the Gloriette at the top. I hope you're enjoying this beautiful view of the back of the Schönbrunn Palace. That tiny little building that was all the way at the top of the hill in the background. The Gloriette, which was built in honor of the Emperor Franz Joseph II and his mother, the Empress Maria Theresia, the reigning monarchs of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And the Schönbrunn Palace was their summer residence away from their downtown apartments in the middle of old Vienna. So we got on the train earlier this morning in Vienna to come all the way out to Wiener Neustadt, where the Börsendorfer factory is located. And here we are. Now, we can't go inside there because they're very strict about not being able to film inside. They don't want anybody stealing their secret technique for creating these wonderful pianos. But here we are. We were able to go inside and play a little on a couple of their 9-foot and 1 Imperial Grand I got to touch, which was delightful. The touch on these pianos is just magical. And the bass, you'll hear that bass quality. The technique is so different from the Steinway. You really have to adjust to get used to that feel. host, Nina Kennedy, and today we are in the fabulous city of Vienna, Austria, at the Börsendorfer Salon, the actual showroom where the Börsendorfer pianos are sold and displayed. We have with us Herr Bulson, who was so kind to allow us to come in and film today. Guten Tag,
Guten
Herr
Tag,
Bulson.
guten Tag, willkommen bei uns.
Danke, wir sind glücklich und froh hier zu sein und dankbar.
Ja.
Dankeschön.
Ja, sehr gerne, ja. We are very happy to welcome you here.
Oh, thank you, thank you. So tell us a little bit about your organization. You've been here for 2 years, right?
I'm just for 2 years here, but I'm feeling my heart that I'm working my whole life for Börsendorfer. I know these pianos from my studies in my young time, and I'm very happy that I got taken by Börsendorfer 2 years ago. We are here in the salon, as you say, and this place is a very special place. We are right under the stage of the Golden Hall. Sometimes we hear some basses of the Vienna Philharmonic Orchestra, as also the last Börsendorfer family member, the son of the founder Ludwig, that was still here, also probably heard it. So it was a very proud. We are here since 1914.
1914.
So, and 1919, so right 100 years before, the last member of the family died.
I see. I see. Yes, we neglected to say that the Börsendorfer Salon is in the same building as the Musikverein.
Yes.
Because the whole building is called the Musikverein,
Yes.
or just the hall? The whole building.
Musikverein, that means Society of Friends of Music. They were founded 1812 already, and it was the time that Vienna was very small, and the very bad politics forced the people to make music in their homes, not to go in public, because there have been a lot of police. It was been this revolutionary era, and the police were very strict here. And so this kind of salon, that means small houses coming together, making music together, they formed a lot of great musicians there, because they played they showed their compositions, like for example also Schubert. And so the rich people of Vienna decided, let's do a society, let's help these people, because these people could not really work, they did not have money. Schubert, one of my favorite composer, he was very poor. He died also with 28 years because he did not have a job, just a job.
Yeah.
And the society grew and grew, and they got very big, and at one point they decided, let's do a concert hall for these people. Because they have to perform somewhere. And at that time in Vienna there have not been a lot of places where you could really perform a big concert. So they got this place here exactly 150 years ago, and next year we will celebrate 150 years of the building. So the building was finished 1870.
Wow.
And yeah. And Börsendorfer, as family, as piano maker, they were very famous in Vienna because of the so-called Viennese sound. So Börsendorfer is really you could say, together with Vienna Philharmonic Orchestra, we are the ambassadors of the Viennese sound. And what is this, the Viennese sound? Well, people that know the New Year's concert, for example, they already can imagine. It's a kind of warm sound, and a specific adapted to the Viennese soul sound, you could say. It's not the effective, maybe it's also not the properly sound. It's not the correct one, but it's this kind of melancholy and this kind of emotional things that you also have in this sound. And
very soulful. Yes.
Soulful, yeah. And this is exactly what Börsendorfer tried to achieve in the pianos. Of course, you know, pianos belong to the instrument group of percussion instruments. And that's because it's a hitting of a string. And Börsendorfer was kind of very ideologically not convinced that it should always be this kind of percussional thing. He wanted to have the singing sound, so he wanted to achieve to have instruments that are not beaten, but they some kind singing. Yeah. And that's the nice thing that I'm convinced for, and then I'm reading the history of the company, I'm seeing the biography of the founders and the history of the city, and I see it's really connected to the kind of living in Vienna. People, I don't know if in the US you know, but Vienna people are quite lazy. So it's not the kind of Italian style, but it's the Viennese style. It's kind of everything will be good, like life is nice, enjoy life. It's a lot of vacations.
Yes.
On Sunday in Vienna everything is closed. There are no open, nothing. You cannot shop on Sunday. So on Sunday people has to relax, and I think that's good because you have to have this diversity of people, cultural people, identities, and so also the instruments are kind of mirror of these societies. Bösendorfer was one of over 100 different kind of pianos in Vienna at that time. Piano developed in Vienna especially to the main instrument. So the society, the Viennese society, had to have in each house a piano. We cannot exactly say why, because there are some societies, for example, in France, Paris or Russia, they had more the string instruments as a favor. Other ones like to have the brass things, but in Vienna especially, really Vienna is the capital of not only of music but of piano music in general.
Right. Well, we're here to film a music video of a performance of the Widmung, the dedication, written by Robert Schumann.
Yeah.
And in this particular arrangement, Franz Liszt had expanded the actual music for piano, so it's a very theatrical, pianistic work. But at the very end of it, there's a quote of the Ave Maria, by Schubert, Franz Schubert, who lived here and spent his short life here, and an out gay man, or well, back then he was kind of closeted, but known to be a gay man,
Schubert,
yes.
Well, he was kind of, I think, at least bisexual, and I think, well, it's not the theme of today, but Viennese people might be very often in that direction. So there are a lot of cases, similar cases, and we also not maybe it's my opinion. I'm not a scientific, but I feel also Beethoven was not maybe a clean direct. So you never know.
Straight arrow.
But Widmung, the dedication, it's really a special piece.
So we were talking about the Widmung.
Yeah, the dedication. Well, I'm together with my girlfriend is a pianist, and she plays in the same time the same piece.
Oh.
And I was by force, maybe, because I know the piece, but so I have to study a bit also the piece. And I know that this piece is a very special piece because it is a thing that Robert Schumann wrote to Clara Schumann before they get married.
Right.
So, and he wrote also the text.
Right.
And Liszt took this particular piece of music that it was really special. It's really coming from his heart, and you can listen it. And Liszt took it and made this arrangement that is really maybe not so typical for Liszt, because he didn't change a lot. He let everything more or less the same.
Right.
And Liszt was a fixed member, almost a family member of Bösendorfer, because he was really in a good friendship with the founder of Bösendorfer, with Ignaz, the father, and with the son as well. And he was when he was in Vienna and in these surroundings, he was permanently with Bösendorfer together. Speaking about music, speaking about piano, we know that Liszt he never was happy with pianos.
Right. Piano kept changing during his lifetime.
Yes.
Because
it was a permanent
demanding.
changing, and it's really quite a good question for me also, why the developing of the piano stopped like maybe 80 years ago. So it was a period at the lifetime of Liszt that everybody was changing, trying something new, not always Bösendorfer, but the other ones, and not always here, also in the States, for example. Everybody was experimenting, and then suddenly it stopped, and so we have now, except maybe Bösendorfer, I can tell you the story, because we try to develop further the pianos, but in general the pianos are made like 80 years before, so no changing anymore. So.
Right, and for the non-pianists, we should say that Bösendorfer is famous for having those extra keys at the bottom of the keyboard.
Yeah.
And for some pianists, they get confused when they look down there and they see these new keys if they haven't been practicing on a Bösendorfer all along.
Yeah.
So there's the little flap where you can cover them if you need to. And then they can be opened again, and some of them are just painted. The white keys are painted black. So
but why?
Confused.
Everybody is asking why, and also customers, and I always also ask myself why. And you have to be aware of the big history. And in that time that the really Liszt lived, and after Liszt's death also, so it was the last years of the 19th century. It was not only in the music, but generally it was this industrialization. It was this time of big movements in the world. And people tried to take out of a piano at that time more than it was usual. And what can you do? You can make it louder. For example, other companies like the German-American Steinway, they tried to do a very strong and loud sound inside. Bösendorfer was convinced of this warm sound, of this Viennese sound, so he tried to do the bass section very strong, so that you have this body of a piano, you can feel it in this direction, the organ feeling of the piano. And so he found out, okay, we could put some strings, some bass strings in, and let them, even if you don't touch them, but they will resonate in a passive way. So you will have this kind of feeling that you're having this great bass. So until today, Bösendorfer, if you play a Bösendorfer, you could listen, you could hear that the bass, and maybe you will play then, is really incredible. Different from others.
Sonorous,
And so the idea of the so-called Imperial Piano was born. And the Imperial Piano is, at that time, it was one of the biggest. It's 2.90 meters, so it's like 9 feet something long. And Bösendorfer put also the keys to the extra strings. So he decided to make the whole octave from the last A to the C down. So there are more keys, so the piano is bigger, and of course sometimes it's confusing.
Yeah.
But Oscar Peterson was very happy having this model because he could improvise, and I think in the jazz, especially jazz, it's really a rich thing to have this kind of strong bass.
Yes, and Oscar Peterson's piano is the one I'll be playing on, right?
Yes.
Yes, I can't wait. That's really exciting. Isn't this gorgeous? This is Oscar Peterson's Bösendorfer Imperial Grand Model that he preferred, and it just came in yesterday for us to be able to shoot this music video here in the Bösendorfer Salon. Happy birthday, Oscar! And behind you, you told us this is a piano, a model that Michael Jackson used?
Michael Jackson used also the same like Oscar Peterson. It was my mistake, so it was the same that you will playing, the Imperial one.
I will be playing on Michael Jackson's piano.
And that one, it's a smaller version, not so big. It's owned by Bernstein, for example. Bernstein had this model. Leonard Bernstein. He was
in his conducting masterclass at Juilliard.
Wow. Yeah. So he was really great. He was he was always here in this concert hall. So when he came to Vienna, everybody knew Bernstein is here. He was on the stage. He was the only, really the only person in the history of this building that was allowed to smoke on the stage.
Really?
Yeah. So he got the only permission, and there are a lot of nice stories of Bernstein, and Vienna loves Bernstein. And everybody remembered the Mahler symphonies performances, but also there's a nice Mozart piano concerto playing by him and conducting on the big stage in the Golden Hall, and he plays of course on the Imperial one. Yeah.
On the Imperial, yeah.
So it was clear that Bösendorfer, very connected to artists like Liszt, like Busoni, like Rosenthal, a lot of Liszt students. They were connected to Bösendorfer because he was very known, and he was given the opportunities to play his piano for the young generations also for free. And he also donated a lot of pianos to the new school of music called Conservatory of the Society of Music Friends. So this society, they wanted to really to give the opportunity to have a very good school to study, not just hobby like it was before, so that everybody had a teacher somewhere in Vienna, a private teacher somewhere, so they wanted really to have an academic, good musical education. And so in the same building that we are now, and in the same rooms here, more than 100 years before, it used to be the school, so the Conservatory of Music. And Bösendorfer donated these pianos for free. And that's why he got an honorific member of the Society of Music Friends. And so he got in touch with all this kind of people really, and with the society. And so he was permanently here. He was also one of the first person that listened to the acoustic of the Golden Hall, because I think they didn't know that they will create such an acoustic in the hall. So I think they just planned a concert hall, and they made these plans, and it was a very good architect. And at the end, when they opened it 150 years ago, next year, they found out that it's a brilliant, perfect Viennese acoustic. And until
sound.
today, I think you know it. The acoustic is really special.
Yeah.
You cannot compare it. It's unique in the world.
And intimate sounding. You don't feel like there's such a huge space. You feel like you're very close with the musicians.
Yes.
We're going to show this this painting of Franz Liszt performing for the
emperor,
Franz
Joseph, the second, and his wife.
And
Elizabeth,
his wife and children.
And the children.
No, that was Sisi, his wife?
Sisi, yeah.
She was very famous and loved by the people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Liszt was a very good virtuoso, and when he came, it was like the Beatles.
Yes, he's a pop star.
He was really a pop star, and we have a lot of papers writing about his concerts, and a lot of conservative, very strong people wrote that is like the same like we will write about the new pop stars like Justin Bieber or something like that.
Right,
you know?
right.
So it's very funny that,
They said he had something like 100 children from different women all over.
He had a lot of children probably, but he just, I think, recognized one.
Right, well, Cosima.
Cosima.
Yeah.
The other ones probably they exist somewhere, but I don't know them.
Daniel, I think.
Yeah, Daniel, yeah.
Blondine, maybe.
Can also
or is
be.
that maybe Wagner's children? I'm getting them confused, but Cosima married Wagner.
Yeah, Cosima married Wagner, and so Wagner was also connected somehow to Bösendorfer.
Right.
And he got also one Bösendorfer, of course. And I think it was this kind of really perfect thing about knowing and understanding how to make pianos, but at the same time also being in a relationship with composers and pianists also at the time. So if you had this possibility to have both sides, not to be just technician and closed without going to be communication, but to be a really open-minded person, and also with the music education, that's very important. And Ludwig, the son of the founder, he had a very good musical education. He studied music. He has he composed 2 waltzes. Just last year I found it in the library. Nobody played them ever, I think, unfortunately. But they are a piece of very interesting music. So I can give you the sheet music, and you can look through if you want.
Take a look at it, absolutely.
It's really Strauss music, but a bit with an individual touch of Bösendorfer inside.
Sweet.
So it's very sweet. So it's one of the. I think I don't know a lot of piano makers that really also composed by themselves, played by themselves, had this kind of really big relationships to the composers. And I think this is one of the reasons why Bösendorfer still exists after 191 years.
Yes, yes.
While the other ones died one after the other one, and we have in Austria really only Bösendorfer as the last testimonial of the rich history of piano making in Austria.
Yes, that's fantastic. Now you had something you wanted to demonstrate here, something about.
Well, we have the principle of the Bösendorfer pianos. What we spoke about this Viennese sound, and you see that the rim, the so-called rim, so this case outside the Bösendorfer is quite thin. If you compare with other piano manufacturers, it's quite thin, and this will be the resonance. How this called? It is the resonant wood, inside of the piano, so the heart of the piano. And if you think that a piano is made of course you know it is of 2 elements. It's wood and metal, and so the most significant, what is making a good piano is of course to have the right wood. In the history, people found out that spruce is the best sounding wood ever.
Interesting.
Yeah, spruce because the structure of the wood is made in the best possibility to give the harmonies and the frequencies of the strings, and so depending on how much spruce and what kind of spruce you have in a piano, you will get the sound out of the piano. And Bösendorfer has this specific thinking that it is more than 80% of the whole piano is made by spruce.
Wow.
So that's why everything, if you play a Bösendorfer, will resonate not only inside, but also the rim here, and also down here.
Wow, the whole box.
The whole box. And this is because the resonance wood inside is touching also the outer. So if you see here, yeah, so you have the wood inside that is touching also the rim.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you will feel it. If you feel it, everything is vibrating inside.
Yeah.
And that's kind. You say it's the singing tone,
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of it's not so the percussive tone, but the violin direction, so the singing tone. That's very particular. And of course, there are a lot of details on the metal frame. Each string has an own pin. It's not the other manufacturer is using one string going there and coming back.
I see.
But Bösendorfer has for each string one pin.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. We really just flew here a couple of days ago to come here and shoot this video, but I really wish I could spend, just a couple of months to really live with this instrument, because it's such a different feeling from the pianos we have back in the States. It's a totally different animal.
Yeah.
And to get used to it, I've gotten so accustomed to those pianos back there.
Yeah.
And it's taking me a while to really just having to relax everything.
It's the same like with traveling to this country. You really need some days to adapt to this life.
Yes, drink some wine.
Yeah,
go to Heuriger. Yes.
Go to Heuriger. Yeah, go to the Stephansdom here and
Stephansdom, yes.
Eat a Sachertorte or Apfelstrudel.
Yes,
a Schnitzel.
Genau. Wir müssen es machen.
Yeah. So it's really part of the cultural identity of Austria, especially Vienna, and that's so nice to have a kind of different attempts of piano making. Of course, everybody knows that in the stages worldwide we have one brand that is almost everywhere, and the most important pianists are always playing this brand, that's Steinway. But we try here to convince people and to show also that there is not a subject to speak what is better or not better. It's just the attempts, it's just the culture, it's this kind of small details that are, these energies that are, everything is inside. And you need to have different pianos. You cannot have a world just with pizza.
You're right.
You need to travel to Vienna to know this kind of life. You need to travel to Paris. You need to travel to Tokyo, and so that's our world. And so a really important part of our world is the culture. I think it makes us human. That's the thing that we have, the culture.
Right.
And the culture is a mix of tradition, a mix of history, everything inside, identities. And you have to be aware of that and to appreciate it, because otherwise everything will be the same everywhere.
Right.
And even if technologies and of kind of globalizations, they try to make people more and more the same. Because if you go off in the center of Vienna, you will have probably same stores like you have it in New York, or you have it
same McDonald's.
Same McDonald's everywhere. You go to McDonald's here, you have the same like there. But still, in culture, we should be aware that we need to converse this kind of culture. And I'm so happy to be at Bösendorfer and to tell the stories, to show that it's important to have it just and to use it and to be happy to have more possibilities, because if you play Schubert, and Schubert died in the same year that Bösendorfer was founded, then you have this bridge and you can think, okay, we we have a piano that existed at the same time when Schubert still lived, and it exists today. And it's a nice thing to have, and with this kind of emotions, you can make another kind of sound coming out, and you can feel also better as a pianist, and you can make the public richer.
You feel much closer to the actual product. And when you think, we've read about how intimidated Schubert was by Beethoven.
Yes.
We've heard that he would, if Beethoven was in a room, he would just run out. He was so intimidated by him. We were just in the Beethoven.
They made 2 or 3 times, I think, and one time he could not speak. He was
so nervous.
Beethoven was very kind to him and told him some mistake in the composition, and he was such nervous, and he went out, and he never had the courage to go again to Beethoven because he was. But one student of Beethoven was Karl Czerny, and we know Czerny. Probably the pianists know when they start to play piano, they have to play the exercises by Czerny, and everybody's hating Czerny. Even he was a nice and very intelligent guy, and he was teaching the nephew of Beethoven. So he was really a Beethoven expert, and he had a piano of Bösendorfer, one of the earlier Bösendorfer. This piano still exists and is in the library, in the archive of the Society of Music Friends, because they have a really huge library. Since they were founded 1812, one of the main things that they do is to collect manuscripts, compositions, everything by composer that lived. So they have the whole library of Brahms.
My goodness.
With all the original handwritings. And Brahms by himself collected a lot by Bach, Mozart, because he was studying them, and he was. So if you go here in this building and you go to the 2nd floor, you never will imagine that you have the world's 2nd biggest libraries in the world.
This is here in the Music
in the same building.
Do you have to make an appointment to go, or you can just go?
You have public hours. You can go not every day, so 3 times a week. And there is a very complicated, but you could make it, system of getting the pieces out, because you don't have a computer.
Right.
You have just the pieces there, so you have to look for by alphabet and by theme, and then you sign a paper, and then they will bring you the original manuscript.
Wow.
So a lot of conductors, and also everything that was owned by the last Bösendorfer family member came also to the library, because he wrote in the testament he wanted that the library of the friends get everything. So
only in Vienna.
Yeah.
I mean, they all lived here.
So this building, really, I recommend everybody coming to Vienna to come to this building, because it's not just a concert hall. It's not just a golden hall. It's like it's a factory. It's the highest possible cultural thing that you have in Vienna, with library, with a piano store, with more than 1 halls, and it's really amazing to work here, to feel the energy that you have here in this space.
Yes, and I remember when I lived here, I was much younger back then, but we were spending a lot of time with a lot of music students, and there were so many orchestras, so they could get enough work to actually live off of the money they made from their performance work in the orchestras.
I also used to work as a student checking the tickets.
Yeah.
So I could go to all the rehearsals, and I was very happy. They don't pay really well, but you have to imagine that you are really inside of this kind of holy space.
Right, and it's possible to live. The rents for the apartments weren't so expensive.
Yeah.
And the tickets weren't expensive. You could actually pay for concert tickets. You can't afford concerts in New York. It's ridiculous. The ticket prices are just through the roof. Students can't afford to go.
It's incredible, yeah. You have here still, since the building was opened 150 years ago, you have the standing plays for students, because the architect thought to open this possibility, to be open to everybody for concerts, and they knew that the seats could be expensive. So that's why they thought, okay, let's do an area downstairs in the ground floor, at the end of the hall where 350 people can stand, and they pay nothing. They pay just 2-3 euros, so it's quite cheap. And still today it's the most popular place. And the same thing happened to the State Opera House, and that's it. The other houses I never saw somewhere standing places. And
they do have them at the Metropolitan Opera in New York, but it's still too much money.
It's still too expensive.
Just too much money.
Yeah.
Just we have to do something about this. Well, danke schön, Herr Poussin.
Danke, Naina.
Being with us. And until
it was a pleasure.
Next time.
Sorry for speaking so much.
It's quite all right. You're so full of historical information. It's really, really wonderful to be able to learn all of these stories. And thank you for watching the Noshing with Naina show. There will be more on our trip to Vienna in this episode and coming episodes. So, bis bald! It's been such a pleasure being back in my old stomping grounds, being able to make music and hear music and enjoy some Apfelstrudel, some Schnitzel, and Blauert Zweigelt. I feel rejuvenated after getting away from the rat race of New York City for a while and enjoying some old world charm. This time in Vienna has truly been a feast for the eyes, ears, and taste buds. They've already invited me back for a concert next year, so bis bald, Wien.